Hi, I'm Peggy with Potato Patch Nutrition, here to do another question and answer session with you. And this one is about PPID, which is actually referred to by most of us as Cushings. But it's essentially stands for pituitary pars intermedia dysfunction. And what that means is that the pituitary isn't functioning up to what would be standard for the animal. So that's going to be a hormone dysregulation is actually what that looks like. So I'm going to read the question, then we'll get into it. Hello, Peggy. I have a question to ask. Sarah Johnson advised me to give our two PPID horses the Just Chill and Hormone Balancer, which I have been doing for a couple of months now. Should I stop the Presend pills too? I don't know if it is safe to give both or if I can stop giving the Presend and only give the Hormone Balancer and Just Chill. My 20-year-old mare suffers from laminitis bouts very frequently, and so I need to be very careful. My 22-year-old quarter horse is on 2 pills a day, and my 20-year-old mare is on 1 pill a day. Both have insulin resistance also. They are not allowed to pasture graze, fed 3 times a day with slow feed hay bag, fed 10% or under tested orchard grass hay. They get Mad Barn amino trace and a handful of soaked tough pellets with their supplements daily. So I have to say that I do like the forage diet that these horses are on. I think that is a really positive. If you have a horse that has a metabolic problem, to keep them off of most grains is smart, especially if the grain has corn, wheat, soy, any of those GMOs that can be really difficult for the hormone system to deal with. And part of the reason is just, for instance, the wheat gluten molecule actually is the same size as the hormone. So any hormones coming from, let's say, the pituitary that go out into the bloodstream to be utilized, a lot of times what's going to happen is that if they're on a grain, that gluten hormone is, or that gluten molecule, is going to go into the receptor site, being the same size, that pituitary molecule was headed for. But it's a bully and it's not going to get out, and it's going to just stay there till it runs its course. And so then that pituitary molecule, and let's just say there's a couple of them. One of them that is with this concern, the PPID concern or Cushing's, is the ACTH, and the other one would be the precursor to thyroid hormones. And so if it gets into the receptors for one of those hormones, then that molecule that was supposed to go there is just going to keep circling through the bloodstream until it's run its life course. And the hypothalamus in the brain is going to be checking the bloodstream all the time to see what levels of each hormone are currently available to the body to be used. And so if the levels are good in the bloodstream, no more is going to be released. And like any muscle, your glands are essentially a muscle of sorts. So like any muscle that isn't used, because if the levels stay high, because there is a gluten molecule in its receptor sites and it just continues to circle, and that stays high, more is going to get produced by the body. So it's going to pause that gland from producing that. And over time, if that happens a lot, that'd sort of be like me putting my arm here, tying it to my side, and then not using it for, let's say this goes on for a month or two, that these gluten molecules get in there, and so the pituitary gland dials back its production. So just like that is not allowing that gland to be used in a consistent basis. If I kept my arm here for, let's say, 2 months and I didn't use it, pretty soon I wouldn't have much muscle in this arm at all. And it would be, when I let it free, then I wouldn't have the use of it that I have every day on a daily basis when I am using it. And so essentially that's what happens to a lot of horses, is that there's a disruption in the hormones that are being utilized, and then the glands begin to not produce as much on a regular basis, and then they become a little bit weak and stagnant. And so a lot of times these horses are put on a more restricted diet, and which can be really good. So if they go onto a forage diet, that can be very positive, and it can be helpful. The other aspect of it is there enough nutrition? Does a horse have the proper nutrition to actually reproduce these start reproducing these glands, or these hormones from these glands? How can you get that gland back up online and activating? And which is how we develop the hormone balancer and the Just Chill, is to help with the thyroid aspect of it. Most of these horses experience hyperthyroidism, which is looks like muscle loss, dysregulation of the body's temperatures, so the horse won't shed on time. They'll hold on to hair. The hair will get really long. Just some very odd things. They'll have pockets of fat in strange areas, but not fat over their back. They'll be really lean, a little bit of a muscle wasting kind of look, no matter how much you feed them. And that's actually usually the beginning of Cushing's. That's usually the first signs of Cushing's, is those signs. The long hair, the really long hair and that kind of stuff usually comes after the second part, which would be the ACTH, which is goes to the adrenals and tells the adrenals then to produce cortisol. And cortisol helps the metabolism. It has to do with stress, the flight response, metabolizing glucose and allowing it to be taken into the cell to be utilized and stuff. And so a lot to do with the metabolic rate. And so it's kind of a top-down system, the thyroid being here, the hypothalamus being here, and the pituitary behind it. As the pituitary begins to get less effective over time, then it moves into the thyroid, and the thyroid becomes less effective because it's not getting the thyroid molecules, or stop producing, as in hyperthyroid. Sorry, my cat. She can't help herself. So as the thyroid is overproducing, which is what happens in hyperthyroid, the molecule that would tell the thyroid to slow down is not coming out of the pituitary, or isn't getting into the thyroid. And so then the thyroid begins to overfunction, or it can underfunction, and that looks hypothyroid. Then eventually it's going to move down into the adrenals, from the pituitary not being able to get what it's sending down there in as far as ACTH, not getting into those receptor sites so too much in the bloodstream again, just circling around. And so as the system from the top starts to get weaker and weaker, if something isn't done to help to on a nutritional level re-up-regulate the system, because essentially all it's happening is a down-regulation of the system, which would be the same thing as me tying my arm down and then not using it for several months. It's going to deregulate the muscles that are not being used. And there was a time when a lot of the herbs and the plants that we use in our supplements would just grow naturally in the pasture, and the horse would be inspired to go and eat them. But because we've really gleaned our pastures and cleaned them up, and our hay sources, no weeds, and we all love that, and that's beautiful, but it's taken out a lot of the natural sources that they could use to help fill in some of these nutritional gaps so that they can come back online. And essentially that's what the hormone balancer and the Just Chill do. They help the sleep-wake cycle that has to do with the adrenals. They help to support the thyroid to bring the metabolism back online, and it just gives them all of the nutritional components that they need in order to do that, to stimulate those things. It's not putting an actual hormone into their body, so there's no risk in combining the medicine like Presend, which is an ACTH, a synthetic ACTH. There's no harm in doing the ACTH and then adding the Just Chill and hormone balancer, because it's only going to help the body to have the nutrition to actually utilize the hormones that are being produced, support the production of more hormones, and bring that back online. So in her concern with, can I give them together, and when should I begin to lower their dosage, or can I lower their dosage? So my suggestion to her, and to anyone who has a horse who's on any medicine, don't do anything that's going to shock the system, and always follow your intuition. If you ask a question of the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, is it safe for me to lower this dose? If you hear in your mind something like half or 3/4, then just do half or 3/4 for, say, up to 2 weeks. and just monitor that horse for any changes that you can visually see after you've, like her horses have been on the hormone balancer, and just chill for 60 days. So that was my suggestion to her, was go to half as much, 3/4 or half as much for a couple of weeks, and just see if there's any change. If there's no change, then go ahead and go back to another half or a quarter, you know, whatever you've chosen to do, and just see again if there's any change. And then when you get down, you know, to a very low amount, it can be a good idea to go ahead and test their bloodstream to see what is actually circulating in it. Especially if you've done a test at the beginning. Some vets will do tests, some won't do tests for the blood before they put a horse on it. If it's obvious that the horse has the problem, a lot of vets will just go ahead and put them on it. But if they've done a test at the beginning, it can be a good idea to go ahead and do a test and make sure the body is functioning up to normal. Especially with a horse who has laminitis concerns. And one of the things that I would suggest with the laminitis concern is to put the horse on hoof it, because it will help the health of the foot. It will increase the circulation naturally. There's 20 some herbs actually in it. So there's a lot in it that's going to really help that inflammatory response of the foot and the pliability of the foot, the quality of the foot, and then also SOS joint with painless, because it will help to lower the inflammation and support all of the things going into the foot that are going to be in a nutrient wise help the joints in that foot and help to lower inflammation considerably. If I had to pick one, I would do hoof it if it was for my own horse. And one of the interesting things to know about a horse is, or any animal, including yourself, is that within 1 year, every cell in the body is replaced. So your horse has a new body every year. So anything that it is experiencing right now, if it's not at optimum health, then what has happened over time is that when nutrition was needed in order to make, let's say hoof, we were just talking about hoof. So let's just say when there was hoof material needed to be made, if the body didn't have everything that it needed to do it on that day, then it's going to down regulate that hoof cell, and the quality of that hoof is going to go down. If you do that over a long period of time, then you're going to see things that show that. And so the biggest thing to know when you're wanting to upregulate an issue with a horse and yourself is that nutrition is required. So if you have a down regulation, you had a nutrition problem. In order to upregulate, you have to address that nutrition problem, because the body is always seeking to perfectly remake itself every year, and it can if it has enough nutrition to do it. And so really the beauty of herbs and plants and things that are natural is, over time, given the opportunity, the body will upregulate itself. And so healing is actually what we're really after. So what I would say is PPID or Cushings isn't something that the horse needs to suffer with forever. It can take time to upregulate all of these systems, and it will take nutrition. And they don't have to be on medicine forever either. Coming off of medicine, always just be very sensitive, follow what your intuition tells you, and when you have questions, reach out to us. We'd like to help your fur baby be comfortable. Be blessed.